Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And it's the morning after game day, and I think everybody today will probably be waking up with a smile on their face. I slept very well last night. You just feel good, don't you, when Manchester United play attractive, exciting football that we all expect, you know? I know it maybe sounds a little bit entitled, but let's just start off the show by saying this. Over the last 10 years, it's been pretty miserable, hasn't it, being a Manchester United fan generally? The football we've seen has been pretty poor, but last night was absolutely spectacular. It was. I know people will say it's only the League Cup, it's only the Carabao Cup, it's only Crystal Palace, but you can only beat what's in front of you. Crystal Palace are 1 point below us in the Premier League. They're a good team. Obviously, Roy Hodgson is one of the oldest legendary managers in football in the Premier League. And I think for us to go and completely dominate them, have 70% possession, pretty much not give them a single chance on goal other than maybe one, which Onana made a save at. I couldn't be happier, and I'm just so happy that we're finally actually seeing Erik ten Hag football at Old Trafford. But as always, we have got a massive show to bring you guys this morning. But before we do that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. And let's get straight on into it. So on the show this morning, we're going to be talking about a massive decision for Erik ten Hag, which of course we will get into. And as always, I will get your opinions to bring into the show. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about Jadon Sancho. Erik ten Hag was talking after the game against Crystal Palace last night about Sancho. We're going to be talking about that. Lots of other bits to get into as well. A couple of topical bits around. I wanted to mention about Victor Osimhen as well, which I think might interest some of you. Lots to get into. As always, get involved in the live chat, get involved in the comments section, and let's get on with the show. So let's start off with talking a little bit about the game last night. Now, people have been saying to me for the last 2 or 3 months probably, some people, not a lot of people, but there's some people in the fan base saying, I don't understand what Ten Hag's doing at United. He doesn't have any style of play. And I think a lot of those people didn't actually know what Erik ten Hag's style of play was, which is fine. Some people watched him at Ajax, some people didn't. I watched him quite a few times at Ajax, and what we saw last night, right, against Crystal Palace, was how Erik ten Hag played football at Ajax. That was exactly how. When we had the ball, he had 3 centre-backs with the 2 wing-backs. You had Amrabat pushing forward into the midfield, and it worked so well. We completely pinned Crystal Palace in their half, and we didn't give them a single sniff at goal for the whole of the first half. Obviously, in the second half, Crystal Palace came out a little bit more aggressive, let's say, and tried to create chances, but they still didn't. And when you think that we had a team of, on paper, Harry Maguire in the defence, unbelievable last night, didn't put a foot wrong. Made a really, really good interception at 0-0 to stop them from scoring. Harry Maguire, fair play to him. Amrabat at left back, absolutely unbelievable. Raphael Varane obviously is Varane, so we don't really have to compliment him, do we? He's always unbelievable for me. Right back Dalot, unbelievable. Casemiro, I would say that was probably one of the best performances I've seen of Casemiro in a Manchester United shirt. He's now got 4 goals from CDM. 4. I mean, that's unbelievable, isn't it? He got a goal and an assist last night. He was the highest rating pass completion, the highest interceptions. He was number 1 across all the stats relating to his, relating to a midfielder last night. He got an assist, he got a goal, most pass completions, most interceptions. So big ups to Casemiro. Really, really convincing performance. Hannibal Mejbri, again, completely held his own. You wouldn't know that he was a youth player who, in theory, should be further down the pecking order, really, shouldn't he? But for me, he should be starting every game now, I think. I think he adds so much to our team. He has so much desire, so much grit, so much hunger to win the ball, so much determination, which I just think some of the other players are lacking a little bit. Like the Eriksons of the world, who are a little bit past it, in my opinion. Hannibal's 20 years of age, 11 years younger than Eriksen at the beginning of his career. We need to be building our team around those types of players, and that will all feed into the big decision topic in a minute about Erik ten Hag. So just listen to everything I'm saying, and then we'll get to the point in a second. Who else played? Obviously, Pellistri, again, really, really solid performance. Garnacho, unbelievable, really, really nice goal he got. Really happy for him. And you know what? Even Anthony Martial, he was a little bit quiet in the first half, but he took his goal really, really nicely. A beautiful finish from a Casemiro cross. And this is what I said to you guys at the beginning of the season, right? I have no problem with these people staying at Manchester United for the rest of the year. The Anthony Martials, the Harry Maguire, if they actually contribute. And they did contribute last night. Now, I'm not saying that one game is enough to pay them, their astronomical wages for a whole season. But if they can do that in every League Cup game or every FA Cup game in the earlier rounds, I've got no issue with it whatsoever. Harry Maguire last night in a back 3, I would even go as far, you're going to think I'm crazy, but Harry Maguire for England in a back 3 is world class. He is. There's no doubt about it. But it's the issue that Manchester United have always found themselves in is that Erik ten Hag usually doesn't play a back three. He usually has a back four. And that means that Harry Maguire is usually left in no man's land. They play a ball over the top and they score. But when you have a back three, you have way more defensive security, right, when we have the ball. And he was really good last night. So big ups to him. Johnny Evans came on and looked decent. I was so happy with every single player. We've got a super chat coming in from Jamie. Jamie says, do you think Mason Mount will start on the right wing this weekend? Asking for fancy draft reasons. Cheers. Yeah, I think Mason Mount will start the game tomorrow. So just to be very, very clear, right? The reason that Mason Mount went off at halftime, he wasn't injured. It was because he hadn't played for about a month. And Erik ten Hag said that after the game. So anybody who's worried about Mason Mount, including Jamie in the super chats, Mason Mount should be playing on Saturday, yes, against Crystal Palace. He was taken off as a precaution, not because he was injured, but just because, he's only just come back. He needs to slowly bring him back in, So I get that. So yeah, and thank you for the super chat, my friend, and thank you for supporting the channel. I really, really do appreciate it. And that tees me nicely on to the final player who we didn't actually discuss at all in that part of the show, Mason Mount. Absolutely unbelievable last night. And it shows exactly why we brought him in, right? Exactly why. That is the Mason Mount that I had seen glimmers of at Chelsea, playing lovely little cheeky passes. Really, really good performance from him last night. And I couldn't be happier. I thought the rotation from Erik ten Hag was spot on to not drop Rashford, that's not the right word. To give Rashford a night off, to give Bruno a night off. Obviously, Eriksen was sick a bit, I believe. Scott McTominay was also ill, so neither of them were on the bench. Lisandro Martinez was injured. So there was lots of those first team players who were rested or not available. And you know what? I really like the lineup we saw last night. And this is where the the massive decision topic comes into this part of the show. And this is where I'm going to get you guys involved with this bit, okay? Now, the question is for you, right? Can Manchester United play the way we did last night with Rashford, Bruno, McTominay? Can we play with those types of players? I'm not sure if we can. And that's the massive decision here for Erik ten Hag, because I'm not just trying to hype us up here. That was probably the best performance I've seen from Manchester United since Erik ten Hag's been here. I genuinely believe that, because it was complete dominating football. It was. There wasn't a single moment where I thought Crystal Palace were going to score. 70% possession. We created so many chances. We could have had a 4 or 5 goals quite easily last night if we'd have really, really put the brake, really gone 110% at them. And this is where I'm a little bit... Obviously, I'm very happy. Don't get this twisted. I'm very, very happy with what I saw last night. But I want more of that. It's like when you go out for a really nice meal, and then your partner says, oh, should we go to this other... Say you go out for a really nice Italian meal, okay? And it's amazing. And you're literally like, that was the best Italian meal I've ever had in my life. And then the next week, your partner says, oh, why don't we try out this other place? And you're there thinking, I'm not sure about this other place. I really like the other one. I want to go back there. But for some reason, you go and try the other one. This is how I feel that Erik ten Hag's probably thinking at the moment, because he's watched the game last night, right? And he must think that was the best performance he's seen, at least this season, at the very least. And what does he do? Rashford has to come back into the team. Whether we want him to or not, whether we think he's the best person for that team is up to us. And that's the whole point of this part of the show. Is Bruno the best part of that team, constantly trying to play balls through? Bruno is a world-class player. There's no doubt about it. But I just don't know whether the Brunos and the Rashfords of the world suit Erik ten Hag's system at the moment. That's my question to you. And I think that's the massive decision for Erik ten Hag, because we could see a very, very different starting 11 against Crystal Palace on Saturday in the Premier League. And I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we'll lose, but I wouldn't be surprised if it will be a much more difficult game on Saturday, because we will see Bruno in there again. We'll see Rashford in there again, who are world-class players. Maybe not Rashford, but I think Bruno's world-class. They're very, very good players, okay? But for me, they're kind of moments players. They're players who will try 10 passes in a game. Say Bruno, he'll try 10 passes in a game, and one of them will make a goal. The other 9 will go, he'll lose the ball. Rashford, he'll take on a player every single time and then shoot. I didn't see a single one of our wingers do that, right? Pellistri last night would take the player on, go past them, and then he'd look to pass it to somebody. And that's what I want to see. There was players, right, in shooting positions, and I'm almost thinking, like, screaming at my screen, shoot. But instead of shooting, they're trying to find an even easier shot for someone to score from. And that's what I like. That's the tiki-taka Barcelona-style football. And that was what Erik ten Hag was known for at Ajax. And I just don't know how we get around this. Official Addo says, I agree, Bruno and Rashford are not Erik ten Hag players. I do agree. And just to be very, very clear here, right, before people start coming at me, Bruno and Rashford are very, very good players. I like both of them. But this is where the big decision is. It's the big decision for Erik ten Hag, not for us. It's a massive decision for him. What does he do? How does he get around this? Because I think it is a problem. I do. And I'm not trying to be negative at all. I'm just giving my honest opinion. I honestly couldn't be happier with the football I saw last night. I honestly couldn't. And I would do anything for that 11 to start the game on Saturday again. Okay? I absolutely would. I wouldn't make a single change. Maybe I'd put Rasmus Højlund in for Martial. Maybe. I think Amrabat at left back was unbelievable. I'd have no issue with Amrabat being the left back. This is the situation, and it's a massive decision for Erik ten Hag. But let me know what you guys think, and I'll read out some of your comments in a minute. Everyone who's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please do smash a like on the video, and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're on the road to 20k subscribers, so let's see how quickly we can hit this next goal in the road. I guess in the road to 100k, but yeah, 20k subscribers is our next target. So everybody please subscribe if you are new, and let's see what everyone's saying in the chat. Elijah says, I think Rashford needs some time on the bench. I mean, the fact that Casemiro is our leading goal scorer with 4 goals and he's a CDM, and you've got Rashford, who's probably, I think he had about 15 shots against Brighton, didn't he? And he got no goals. Like, that just kind of says it for me, doesn't it? You've got a CDM who's got 4 goals, right? And then you've got Rashford, who has 15 shots in one game when he could have literally passed it to Højlund on multiple occasions and has 0 goals. Dave says Rashford needs time out of the team. Olsen says Bruno and Marcus don't fit our play. I think the thing is, right, I think Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford are very, very good players. I do. I just think that they have a very unique style of football, and I just don't think it's really about team play. I think it's more like individualistic. And I think that does sometimes cause problems, because it's like PSG, right? This is a good example, actually. So PSG had Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. That is unbelievable. Okay, they were 3 individuals. They didn't have the chemistry and they didn't play well together. They didn't complement each other's style. And you saw what happened with PSG. They ended up sacking the manager. Messi's now gone and Neymar's now gone. But like, imagine if I said to you, right, there was a team with Messi, Neymar and Mbappe. You'd say they're going to win everything. They're going to be unbelievable. Yeah. Jin says unique style is counter-attack. Yeah. That's the thing. Last night was not counter-attack. It was 100% dominating football. And it was what I was expecting from Erik ten Hag from when he signed. So I was so happy with that. David says we did not play Crystal Palace's strongest team last night. Well, if you want to go on that argument, Manchester United didn't play their strongest team last night. We didn't have Luke Shaw. We didn't have Wan-Bissaka. We didn't have Martinez. We didn't have Rashford. We didn't have Højlund. We didn't have Bruno Fernandes. We didn't have Anthony or Sancho. I mean, so if you're going on that argument, last night's team was the B team for Manchester United. Maguire. Who else did we have? You had a CDM at left back. You get where I'm going with this. So it's easy to say, oh, we didn't play Crystal Palace's strongest team. Well, we in theory didn't play our strongest team, did we? You had Johnny Evans playing for a lot of the game. You had Lindelof coming on at halftime. That wasn't on paper our strongest team. So yeah. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Official Addo says, I was shocked at the work rate off without the ball. It was insane. You don't get that with Rashford in the team. He walks around like a luxury player. That's exactly it. That's exactly my point. Rashford is a very, very good player, and I really like him. He's one of my favourite players at Manchester United. I just don't know whether he suits what Erik ten Hag's trying to do. He suited what Ollie was trying to do down to a T. He did. Ollie Ball was park the bus, counter-attack, moment of magic from Bruno or Rashford, and it worked, and we got some really good results from it. But Erik ten Hag isn't about that. He's all about a team game. It's about every single player has to work 110%. Whether you're Mbappe or whether you're some 18-year-old who's just come from the youth academy, you still have to press. You still have to give 120% every single game. And I'm just not sure whether Rashford does that. But what I will say here is, okay, if we're going to talk about this argument in a fair manner, maybe that's up to Erik ten Hag to get out of Rashford, because I'm sure that Rashford is able to do that. It's just whether Erik ten Hag can get him to do that. That's the question. And that's where maybe the player power thing comes into question here. You know, you give Marcus Rashford this ridiculous contract. You can't now just not play him. You have to play him. He's on what, 300 grand a week, is it? Let me check. Rashford, new contract. I mean, I think he's on crazy money. Yeah, he's on £300,000 a week now. You know? Like, can you just drop him and not play him anymore because he doesn't suit your system? Does that just not make the club look incompetent? Does that not make Erik ten Hag look incompetent? Because people will say, well, why did you give him a new contract if you're not going to play him? You know, why did you give him £300,000 a week? That's the bit which I think raises the question marks for me. I guess one argument could be that, they were trying to retain his value. I just have this feeling that Rashford's going to be here forever. I just feel like he won't leave Manchester United. I mean, when you compare it to this, right, this is crazy. So Hannibal Mabry, right, is on £5,000 per week. Marcus Rashford's on £300,000 a week. And I think that kind of just answers the question there. And it just is a bit sad, really, in this day that everybody's so motivated. But Rashford's achieved everything. He's a millionaire. He's on £300,000 a week. He's in the England squad. He got 30 goals last season. He probably feels like he doesn't need to work as hard as someone like Hannibal. But in a team like Erik ten Hag's, in a team like Pep Guardiola's, in these types of teams, regardless of who you are, whether you're Erling Haaland or whether you're John Stones or whoever, right? You still have to work as hard as the other person. You can't just be like, oh, I'm Marcus Rashford, I don't need to work hard, you know? But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that one. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Noel says we played like a team and not like individuals. Exactly, mate. That's exactly what I'm trying to say here. Exactly. Red Devils United says, last season, Rashford was our best player. Now, after 5 games, you want Rashford to leave the club. I'm not by any means saying I want Rashford to leave the club. Many, many times in this show this morning, I've said how much of a good player he is. I love Marcus Rashford. He's one of my favourite players at Manchester United. What I'm saying is, and what the point of this section of the show is, last night was the best performance I've seen from Erik ten Hag over a 90-minute period since he's been at the club, in my opinion. Let me know if you agree, okay? I think it was complete dominating football. And my question is, not for us to decide, for Erik ten Hag to decide, yeah? It's a massive decision for Erik ten Hag. What does he do? Because surely he watched that game and thought the same thing as what we did, that was probably the best performance we've seen so far. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he thought that we were rubbish, but I would be very surprised if that was the case. It's just the question is, right, it's what will be Manchester United's style of play, okay? This is what you need to home in on, all right? Take away the personal, oh, he said that Rashford doesn't pass the ball. What's he talking about? Like, just forget about that for a minute. What I'm trying to say to you, and what I've said to you many, many times before about Erik ten Hag and about Manchester United's future is, at this moment in time, Erik ten Hag is creating Manchester United's identity. We don't have an identity. We don't, at the moment. Last night, what we saw on that pitch is what Erik ten Hag is trying to create as Manchester United's new identity. And my question is, now listen to this bit very carefully. With how Marcus Rashford is playing at the moment, does he fit into that identity? I don't think he does. But the job of the manager of Erik ten Hag is to get Marcus Rashford to play in that identity. Because let's be honest here, right? If Marcus Rashford worked as hard as Pellistri did, Hannibal did last night, he would be a far better player than either of them and would suit the system far better, because Rashford is a better player than both of those people. The question that we're talking about here is whether at this moment in time, him getting the ball, running and shooting every time he gets the ball, is that how Erik ten Hag wants to play football? I don't think so. So actually, take it away from me being like, people saying, oh, he scored 30 goals last season. Why are you slagging off Rashford? I'm not really slagging off Rashford. It's actually on Erik ten Hag this, because he's the one who needs to get what he wants out of those players. If he can't get it out of them, then it's a problem. That's my point here. And it's a big decision for Erik ten Hag to try and get the players, these players who are our better players. Bruno and Rashford are probably, and Casemiro are probably our 3 best players, and Varane, aren't they, realistically? Let's not get it twisted. Marcus Rashford is levels above Pellistri. Bruno Fernandes is levels above Hannibal Mabry. They are. There's no doubt about that. They are. My point here is can Erik ten Hag get them to play like how Hannibal did, like how Pellistri did, by way of their running, their tracking back, how motivated they are? Because I don't know. I'm not sure if they can. And that's the question here. And that's the big decision for Erik ten Hag. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat. Davey says, better quality football, passing the ball around as a team, more desire in the team last night. Exactly. Somebody says, how do we motivate Rashford to work harder, though? Not everyone is self-motivated like Messi and Ronaldo. Yeah, I kind of agree. Someone says Rashford needs some assistance because what he thinks is right isn't right at all. That's what I'm saying. It's just as much on Erik ten Hag as it is on Marcus Rashford, you know? Erik ten Hag is the coach. It's his job to identify what we're seeing here as fans and to get Marcus Rashford, to get Bruno Fernandes to play like how we did last night, to watch back the video and say, look, Rashford, you're one of the best strikers in the world. You're one of the best left wingers in world football. But we need you to track back. We need you to find the passes. You know, you need to add more assists to your game and all the rest of it. Mount says, I can't believe what I saw last night. We played so well. Why didn't we play like this at the start of the season? Well, Mount, that's what we've been talking about for the last 20 or so minutes, you know. I honestly think it's because we had different people playing. I honestly do. I honestly think that because of the team that started, I think it made a massive, massive difference. Noel says we can get carried away when we win. We need to celebrate when we play good. Otherwise, we will never be happy. Exactly. What's the point in being a Manchester United fan, right? If you don't celebrate the victories. Okay, we're not Man City who win a trophy and they're barely even cheering. Like they're just like greedy now, aren't they? You know, you see Man City fans in the stadium at home and they score a goal and they're kind of like clapping, like really like, you know. It's pathetic, but that's because they're spoiled now. They score like 100+ goals a season. When we score a goal, I'm absolutely buzzing. Let's see what else people are saying. Mila says Rashford has only been left wing in Forest game where he assisted and earned a penalty. Kevin says, I just have a feeling we need to drop our captain and Rashford for some time. We really played well yesterday. Maguire kept a clean sheet. Yeah, I mean, I'm a very, very fair person, okay? I have no agenda against any player whatsoever. I'm just a person like you, sat in front of a webcam giving my opinion on football. I'm sure Erik ten Hag knows better than I do. I'm sure Marcus Rashford knows better than I do. I'm sure some of you in the chat know more than I do, but it's just an opinion at the end of the day, isn't it? Paul says we're beginning to look much fitter now. David says also I think Rashford needs to unlearn some of the very things Erik ten Hag and Benny McCarthy taught him last season. Different season, different needs. Ibrahim says it's all about Erik ten Hag tactically, not solely on players. Erik ten Hag adapting quick counter transition, which never worked out. Exactly. And I think that Marcus Rashford can do what we did last night. It's just, that's what we need to see. I don't want to go into the game against Crystal Palace and just see Rashford running down the wing every time he gets the ball and shooting, because that's not how we played last night. And we saw how good we were last night. I think by doing that, you give the opponents opportunities. So yeah, Malp says Garnacho was fantastic, not selfish like Rashford and tracks back. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about for the last half an hour. And people are saying, you know, how can I be slagging off Marcus Rashford? I'm not slagging off Rashford at all whatsoever. I'm saying, if anything, it's on Erik ten Hag and his coaches to get him to play the same style of football as what we did last night. They should be watching that video back today and saying, Rashford, you're one of the best in the world, but we need you to do what they did last night. And hopefully he takes that well, okay? Hopefully it's not like a Sancho situation where he throws his toys at the pram. I doubt it would, though, personally. But let me know what you guys think about that one, and we will move on to the next part of the show. Before we do that, please do smash a like on the video, everybody. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. And I will, yeah, let's see what we've got coming in. Carl says, how can £300,000 a week not be motivation? That irritates me a lot. Yeah. I hear you, mate, I do. And I think the money factor does create a bit of an issue in football, doesn't it? Because us normal people, let's call it, look at footballers and we think you're on what most people would probably don't even earn in 5 years, and you get that in a week and you can't motivate yourself. Like, and that's what frustrates you, doesn't it? Martique says our best team on paper isn't our best team. Yeah. Sean says, who said Rashford is not motivated? Stop hating because of his wage. He will get there in many top teams and many will line up if he was available. Look, let me just end this little bit of the show, all right? And I'm saying that the Marcus Rashford situation, conversation, whatever you want to call it, is actually a job for Erik ten Hag to sort out. Okay? That's his job as the manager. He needs to make Marcus Rashford fit within that team, because Marcus Rashford is a far better player than Pellistri. He's a far better player than Anthony. He's a far better player than Sancho, and he's a far better player than Garnacho. At this moment in time, I'm not saying Garnacho won't go on to be a better player in years to come, because Garnacho is only 18. But at this exact moment in time, sitting here today, Marcus Rashford is our best wing player by way of his attributes, by way of his ability to shoot, his skills, his ability to take people on and all the rest of it. But it's just whether Erik ten Hag can coach him to do the basic things that we saw last night and that worked really, really well. That's the question, and that's the big decision. And that's what I think will be make or break for whether Marcus Rashford fits within this system. Right, let's move on to the next bit of the show, though. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that were said after the game last night. So let's see what Erik ten Hag had to say. So let's go through this really, really quickly. So apparently McTominay and Christian Eriksen both missed the game through illness. I'll be honest with you, I don't think either of them were missed. I would honestly be happy if I never saw Scott McTominay play for Manchester United again. I don't want to be mean, but when you compare someone like McTominay with Rashford, McTominay's not bothered, right? But he's not very good at all. Whereas you've got people like Hannibal, who are 110% motivated. You've got people like, even like Dan Gore, who came on the pitch last night, 150% motivated. He came on to make his debut yesterday, Dan Gore, on his birthday. Like, I would much rather give them game time than Scott McTominay. Christian Eriksen as a backup on the bench, I've got zero issue with that, but I don't think he should be starting games for me. Right, let's move on to the Sancho situation, though. So Erik ten Hag was, of course, asked about Jadon Sancho after the game. Now, for anybody who is unaware, Jadon Sancho has, in the last 24 hours, deleted his Instagram account, okay? Make of that what you will. He's already done that once. He did that back in, I think it was last year, when he went off for 3 months to the Netherlands. He has now deleted his Instagram. I don't know what's going on with Jadon. I don't. I do want to step on eggshells, as the saying says. You know, I want to handle this with a bit of caution, because I do just wonder whether there's something more deep underlying going on with Jadon Sancho. I am worried a little bit about him from a personal side. Obviously, from a footballing perspective, it's easy to point all the fingers at him and say he's on 350 grand a week. We paid 70 odd million for him. He's not performed at all since he's been here. He's sent for the manager. Like, he has to go, okay? From a footballing perspective, Manchester United have to cut ties with him. I've got zero doubts about that whatsoever. But on a personal level, like, you do have to be a little bit worried about him. I do. Like, obviously, we know that he was suffering with something last season. We know that, you know, he's just deleted his Instagram. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Somebody's saying 1 win and everyone is on Rashford and Bruno's case. Look, come on. The thing that you have to remember with this Rashford and Bruno bit is they are 2 of our best players. Okay? Hear me say that. Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford are 2 of Manchester United's best players, without a shadow of a doubt. But have you seen a game where both of those have played that looked like last night? I don't think so. And I think that that's up to Erik ten Hag and his coaching staff to get that out of those players. It's not their fault. That was what they were told to do under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Get the ball, run at them, shoot. That was Ole ball, wasn't it? It was counter-attacking football, and that's not Erik ten Hag ball. So this isn't on Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes. They're just doing what they were told before. Yeah. So somebody says there's truly something more deeper than what's going on with Sancho. Yeah, I honestly think there is as well, and I do think we've got to be very, very cautious about, you know, the Sancho situation. Red Devils United says, Kieran, what's the solution for all of this if every player just starts doing that? If we cut ties, we will lose about 50 million of transfer wages. I'm not sure what you mean, mate. What's the solution for all of this if every player just starts doing that? Do you mean if every player starts doing what Jadon Sancho's done? I would imagine there's some sort of legal action we can take against these people, but I don't really know, to be honest. But yeah. Right, I'm gonna start a poll, actually. Let's do a poll. Let's do this, all right? And again, this is just... All right, I'm gonna get a poll up quickly. 1 second. And... So the question's going to be... It's going to be, does Erik ten Hag need to adjust Rashford and Bruno's style of play? All right, I think I've worded that question quite well, because I know some people are getting a bit upset about what I'm asking. So the question is, does Erik ten Hag need to adjust Rashford and Bruno's style of play to fit into his system? So let me know what that is. We've got another super chat coming in. This is coming in from Lee. Big ups, Lee. Thank you for the super chat, mate. He says, hi, Kieran. Great show. I agree. Bruno and Marcus are moments players. They need to be coached to be team players. Have a great day, mate. There you go. That's exactly what I'm trying to get across. And thank you very much for the super chat, Lee. And thank you for summarising that point, because there's some people waking up this morning thinking that I'm going off on a personal vendetta against Marcus Rashford and Bruno, which is really not the case whatsoever. As I said, and as Lee says, they need to be coached to be team players. That's on the manager. That's not on them. They're moments players. They're world-class players in their moments, but they need to be able to do all the basic stuff as well. I know people have been saying that about Bruno for a very, very long time. If you look at his pass completion rate and all the rest of it, it's actually quite low because a lot of the time he does go for like crazy passes and stuff. Sometimes they pay off when we get a goal. Sometimes they don't. Right, let's see what else people are saying. Red Devil says, what I meant is Sancho's contract is terminated like Ronaldo. We would lose potentially 50 million, which we would get for him. I don't think they'll terminate Sancho's contract. They will do something with him. They'll probably loan him, I think. I was saying on the show last night, so obviously the Saudi window opens in January as well, the 1st of January. I could see him going to Saudi, to be honest. I think at this point, he'll have to just take whatever he can get. If he refuses to leave, then that's absolutely crazy. But let's see what we say. Yeah, let's crack on with the rest of the show, though. Right, let's read through the rest of these bits from last night's game. And do get involved in the poll. I've tried to word it in the most unoffensive way and tried to actually get how I'm feeling across, so people aren't going to take it too offensively. Because I know some people are, thinking that I'm sending for Rashford and Bruno, which really isn't the case. It's a question. It's a topic of discussion for everyone to get involved in. So let's, just wanted to make that very, very clear. Right, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how well Sofyan Amrabat played last night. Honestly, he was absolutely unbelievable. And he came out after the game, right, and I absolutely love this. He said, since I was a child, I worked for this moment. I worked very hard my whole career, my whole life for this. To play here is amazing. It's Tuesday and the stadium is full. It's fantastic. And he even goes on to say as well, which I found really, really funny. He said, the interviewer said, you played at left back. I thought you were a midfielder. And he said, I'd play anywhere that Erik ten Hag asked me. I'll play in goal if the manager wants it. And I mean, that's the kind of attitude we like, isn't it? It really, really is. Right, but yeah, let me know what you thought of Amrabat's performance last night. I thought he was absolutely quality. And let's go through a few of the comments that Erik ten Hag said after the game as well. So he said, these young players have to impress in training. You don't get given opportunities, you earn them at this club. And I think that is very, very damning again to Jadon Sancho. The fact that he said that people won't just get given opportunities because of who they are. And I think that does say something about Rashford and Bruno. I said this to you guys before when people have said, why does he keep picking Rashford? Why does he keep picking Bruno? What's going on here? Those two people must be model professionals. They must inspire people. They must motivate people. They must give 110% in training every day. And that's why Erik ten Hag picks them. He's then asked about if there's any solution, any update with Sancho. And he says, it is up to him. I don't speak about unavailable players. So you could see if you watch the press conference with Erik ten Hag after the game, he was absolutely, you could see on his face that he was fuming to be asked again about Jadon Sancho. You can tell that it's literally at breaking point. What will happen? I don't know. Ten Hag also says, you don't get given it with me. You have to earn it. These youngsters have to deserve the chance, and they do. And I just love that. I really, really do. I love that we finally got a manager, right, who's rewarding people based on whether they deserve the chance, not based on who they are. And I really, really respect that. I do. Let's see what else people are saying. He says, Ten Hag also then goes on to say, the spirit has always been there with this team. There is still a lot more to come. It was a good night. And he even says Harry Maguire was very solid. And you know what? I 110% agree with Harry Maguire. He was unbelievable last night. He was. Big ups to Harry Maguire. Very, very good. And then just to be very, very clear about the Mason Mount situation, because I've had quite a few people asking me about this. Mason Mount was taken off pre-planned. That was always going to be the case. He was always going to come off at halftime. So anybody worried about him being injured, he's not injured. It was always the plan for him to come off. And I am expecting to see Mason Mount play against Crystal Palace on Saturday. And you know what? I think Rashford will place Garnacho. I think Bruno will probably replace. Who will Bruno replace? Hannibal, maybe? I still would be very, very happy with that team. I guess Mason Mount will maybe play on the right wing. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the starting 11 on Saturday. I think it will be slightly different. But generally, I wouldn't change much. If Martinez is injured, I think we're fine with Maguire. Obviously, if Reguilon's sick or not available, then I think we're fine with Amrabat at left back, because how we pushed our wing backs forward and have a 3 at the back, I really liked that last night. So yeah, that was really, really good. So Sofyan Amrabat, yeah, he said, I play where I can help the team. I'll even play in goalkeeper. I play for the badge. I mean, that is the exact reason, or that's the exact thing we want to hear from a Manchester United player, isn't it? So big ups to Sofyan Amrabat. Let's see what else people have said in the chat before we end the show. Official Ado says you can't win the Premier League or the Champions League with Bruno. I think you can win the Premier League and the Champions League with Bruno. I think it's up to the manager to coach them to be able to do what his style of play is. And this is where it all boils back to ownership, directors of football, and all the rest of it, okay? Bruno Fernandes is an unbelievable player, but is he the type of player that suits Erik ten Hag's system? Well, we don't know because he wasn't here when Bruno Fernandes was bought. Every single player that Brighton buy, every single player that Manchester City buy, they know for a fact that they suit Manchester City's system. And Manchester City's system is Pep Guardiola's system. Does that make sense? So even if Pep Guardiola leaves, which he might do in the next couple of years, they'll just go and find another manager who's got a similar model to Pep Guardiola who can play that same style of football. And that will mean that all of these players that they've bought, you know, was it Doku they just bought? All of these players will work in the system for whoever the next manager is going to be. So they don't then have all these players from different managers, from all different playing styles who have been told to do this by one manager and then something else by another manager. And it's all just a big mess, isn't it? So yeah, that's my take on it anyway. But right, I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us on the show this morning. I hope everyone is feeling positive after that really convincing performance last night. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will, of course, be back at 6 p.m. for your evening show. If anything breaks between now and then, I will, of course, go live as always. So make sure you hit that notification bell. This has been Daily Red Devil. I've been Kieran, and I'll catch you all later.